So, good afternoon, and welcome to the second webinar of Green Hydrogen India. And we're very happy to welcome you back again to our next webinar. We have a fantastic panel today, and I'm greatly looking forward to having various insights on green hydrogen valleys. And perhaps let me pass the word to our director of the Green Hydrogen India, to Nishant Balashanmugam, if he's on the call. Nish, perhaps a couple of words from you to start off with, please.
Yes, Rob. Thank you very much. And this is such a delight to have so many people join us today. And this is part of our monthly webinar series. And I see a lot of familiar faces, people from the industry. And I'm glad that people find this valuable. All of these other webinars we've done before, we looked at topics, we looked at having engaging conversations. But I think this one is more about informing on what's happening in the whole valleys, hubs, and all of these hydrogen clusters coming up in the country. And at this moment, I also want to thank all our speakers who've taken the time out. And as some of them are busy, they're juggling multiple things, but they've made the time here. And I want to make sure that, their time and presence here is of value to everybody else who's joined us. On this topic, valleys, clusters, hubs, however you want to call them, are going to be a key proponent of the larger green hydrogen ecosystem that we all envision for India and the world. And some of these hubs and clusters will bring about innovative models and look at, ways in which we can use green hydrogen, green ammonia across various sectors and applications. So I'm quite excited to see what some of the valleys and hubs across India are doing. It'll also be a good pulse check on where they are in their efforts and how we can collectively support each other. So with that, I'll pass it on to you, Rolf. Good luck for today.
Many thanks. Then allow me then to introduce them, the first speaker today. After this wonderful introduction from Nishant, we have Dr. Krishna Pai from the Department of Science and Technology. Perhaps just a very interesting fun fact about Dr. Krishna. So the fun fact is that I was just reading that you received your PhD from a university in Germany. And on top of that, from the University in Ulm, where both my parents actually also got PhDs. So I'm not sure you can still talk. It's some time ago, if you still speak some words of German, but they've been very happy to see that you were in Germany at some point in your life. So anyway, very happy to have you on the call today, sir. With that, over to you.
Okay, let me share my presentation. Okay, it's my pleasure to meet all of you in this webinar, and thank you so much for Mr. Nishant for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to talk about Department of Science and Technology's Clean Energy Research Initiative, especially on hydrogen and fuel cell program. So in India, the way of operation is concerned with the Ministry of Science and Technology, which in turns comprise the Department of Science and Technology, then DBT and CSIR. So these have been the three main operational agencies. But apart from this, governmental funding is not only comprised of this, although we are going to look mainly at what these agencies are doing. And there is a lot of other opportunities such as MNRE, MOP, and public sector unit that comes under the government. Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas is becoming a very key player in the transition to renewable resources, and especially the transition from petroleum and natural gas to hydrogen. And then we have Ministry of Earth Science and DSIR. So all these government agencies are coming and putting forth their input, although the main execution agencies as far as the hydrogen and fuel cell program is concerned is the Department of Science and Technology. So further, India presented the following 5 nectar elements, Panchamrit of India's climate action. So first, India will take its non-fossil energy capacity to 500 gigawatt by 2030. Then second, India will meet 50% of its energy requirement from renewable energy by 2030. Third, India will reduce the total projected carbon emission by 1 million tons from now till 2030. And fourth, by 2030, India will reduce the carbon intensity of its economy by more than 45%. Finally, fifth, by the year of 2070, India will achieve the target of net zero. So these Panchamrit will an unprecedented contribution of India to climate action. So at DST, we have a division called Climate, Energy and Sustainable Technology Division, which seeks to strengthen a national and international cooperation for social development, particularly in the thematic area of carbon capture and utilization storage, climate change, clean or alternative fuels, clean coal, smart grid, building energy efficiency, solar energy system. The two topic, hydrogen and fuel cell and material for energy storage, which I am the program officer and handling at DST. Before going into the main topic of hydrogen and fuel cell cluster, I would like to talk about something about Mission Innovation, because these programs are coming under Mission Innovation program. So the whole concept of Mission Innovation started in November 2015, when the heads of various different governments, including India, presented by our Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi. So Mission Innovation platform is one of the most powerful and enabling platform, which brings a lot of countries and a lot of technologies on board and enable collaborations and collaborative effort to take on challenges that are global importance. And it is in that context, Mission Innovation 2 was launched to accelerate technology, particularly with the emphasis on Paris Accord, which India is a part to. And that is the main idea, is to reduce a global warming. And that is where energy becomes a very important part of this entire cycle. Since Mission Innovation was announced, Material for Energy focusing on identifying opportunity to support these four missions and one of the innovation community and their unique material needs. So some of those ideas are reflected in this slide. So we appreciate that each Mission Innovation initiative is at a slightly different stage of development. So Material for Energy would like to participate in your individual roadmap preparation in order to assess whether material acceleration platform could be applied to solve material problems that would advance you towards your goal. So in some cases, we are already developing this self-driving lab to address mission's need, particularly on hydrogen and carbon dioxide reduction. So there is also a major project on battery storage under Horizon 2020, known as Big Map, that works within the Material for Energy broader ecosystem. So one of our earliest intervention was on thermal energy storage material, and would certainly be interested in deploying the workflow developed within the affordable and heating and cooling of building innovation community in this phase of Mission Innovation. So in order to get an idea of how material acceleration platform could work for developing electrocatalyst for the clean hydrogen mission, let us consider the electrocatalyst system under development by the National Research Council of Canada. Here, the schematic shows the closed-loop catalyst synthesis and characterization to achieve an oxygen reduction using a low-cost metal oxide materials. Artificial intelligence will be used to accelerate the electrochemical characterization, but also plan the next experiment from the available elements or candidate material space. So this system can be directly applied to hydrogen production, and there are plans to integrate in many of the DST program in the future. So hopefully it will support work under the National Green Hydrogen Mission was launched by our Line Ministry, MNRE. So the oncoming program that Department of Science and Technology have stepped into is now focusing more and more faster innovation to bring the translational project into reality, and at the same time do it in a cost-effective manner. So that was the challenge that the DST started out when it decided to take on the Integrated Clean Energy Material Acceleration Platform. So IC map here we could see that is divided into three verticals: bioenergy and hydrogen map. Then we have material map and storage map. And if you see, the map has a number of PIs on board, 10 PIs comprising bioenergy and hydrogen map. So each of these has a very discrete and concrete connection to our commitment to Paris Accord. So I should also mention that as far as the Indian context, this has been a program that right from the start, it has taken up top-down approach. So it is a goal-oriented mission mode program, which we are trying to achieve through this. And what is common between all the three verticals is that every single vertical has a very strong role of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data analytics that is inbuilt in each of these verticals. So that actually enable in silico processing, not only that data mining. Through IC map, we have access to a large database, and through that, most of it done in a predictive manner rather than trying to do it an experiment and to understand the results. So it has now become an inverted where the machine learning and data analytics combined with an artificial intelligence is now trying to guide this entire program and enable material discovery at a faster pace and more cost-effective manner. So the other main aspect of this is a translational implementation. So it is always stressed on how in this technology, the concept that you develop going to translate to ground reality. And this has also been factored in these three verticals. So the Department of Science and Technology has taken up the development of an hydrogen and fuel cell technology program in 2018. And the focus is on creating volumes and infrastructures and towards demonstrating of niche application which provide facility, policy support, and providing a symbiotic international linkage. So the National Hydrogen Mission will be directed towards the advancement of hydrogen and fuel cell technology through R&D and validation to make technology competitive in cost and performance, to reduce institutional and market barrier towards commercialization. And the government of India has recently notified the green hydrogen definition says carbon emission should not exceed 2 kg of carbon dioxide equivalent for every kilogram of hydrogen produced. So here we could see from this slide, there are several programs under this program. A total of 58 proposals were approved for funding with approximate cost of 180 crore, focusing on development of new electrode material, exchange membrane, and catalyst for hydrogen storage and fuel cell application. So I'm going to skip this slide. So these are some of the area supported under DST's ongoing program. We also supported 2 centers for energy storage platform on hydrogen. And this center will be established at the Non-Ferrous Technology Development Center at Hyderabad. And we also having one center as IIT Mumbai. And this center has been established to carry out material and system research, prototype demonstration, technology development, incubation of innovative ideas, and so on. So here the lead organization is IIT Mumbai, and the technology metal hydride based hydrogen purification system developed under this center has been transferred to NTPC. So these are some of the outcome. Banaras Hindu University has developed a cutting edge technology, quantum technology, to produce the hydrogen with a photocatalyst system for efficient energy generation, achieving a production rate of 1 liter per minute per 10 gram of quantum photocatalyst. And the technology developed under this program has transferred to Aparat Engineering Private Limited. And this technology also approved for implementation by the Indian Navy headquarters, joining hands with Kausar Investment Company UAE. So we have another outcome developed under IIT Mumbai, metal hydride based multi-storage purification system with the capacity of 6,000 to 10,000 liter per batch. So this technology is also transferred to NTPC. Then we have metal hydride based hydrogen storage system for two-wheelers integrated with PEM fuel cell, which is retrofitted on a two-wheeler for a 60-kilometer test drive. And this technology is also transferred to Center for High Technology, a technology cell of Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. Now, the important topic which DST is bringing up is the Hydrogen Valley. Before talking about this India's Hydrogen Valley, I would talk about what is Hydrogen Valley and what is happening globally. So a hydrogen valley is a mini hydrogen economy that integrates several steps of the value chain and various end users in a regionally defined scope. So in past, we have seen a demonstration project mostly focusing on a single application. So Hydrogen Valley is the next development step. It showcases the full potential of hydrogen as an energy vector. So the objective of Hydrogen Valley is to demonstrate how the technology development in the entire value chain of hydrogen as an energy vector fit together in an integrated system approach to industrial deployment at a small scale. So this concept as a national initiative to foster green hydrogen transition has been taken up by the Department of Science and Technology for showcasing and deploying technology advancement at the industrial level across the green hydrogen value chain and creating interconnected hydrogen ecosystem across the selected region of India. So as a clear sign of growing and maturing hydrogen market, so Hydrogen Valley have started to emerge all around the world. So this slide shows the global Hydrogen Valley activities and example project from the Mission Innovation Hydrogen Valley platform. Here we could see a total of 98 Hydrogen Valley in 36 countries with a total investment of 1,73,429 million euro. So mission members together commit to delivering at least 100 large-scale integrated clean hydrogen valley worldwide by 2030. And now India is also coming up with the 4 valleys, and this will generate economy of scale, pushing down clean hydrogen costs to catalyze the development of global clean hydrogen economy. So what makes a hydrogen valley? So in all the hydrogen valley, the concepts are unique and depends on the specific objective and the regional circumstances. So there are common characteristics what constitute a hydrogen valley. Let us look into the first large in scale. So all hydrogen valley go beyond R&D and demonstration. So they are large in scale and have at least a double-digit million euro investment in size. So it typically also includes several sub-projects that make up the larger valley portfolio. Secondly, they have a clearly defined geographic scope. So Hydrogen Valley are hydrogen ecosystem that covers a specific geography. So their footprint can range from a local or a regional focus, for example, a major port and its hinterland, to a specific national or international region, for example, a transport corridor along a major waterway. Then a broad value chain coverage is also a very important. Along their geographic scope, Hydrogen Valley covers a multiple step in hydrogen value chain, ranging from hydrogen production to the subsequent storage of hydrogen and distribution of off-takers via a various method of transport. Then fourth is supply to a various end sectors. So Hydrogen Valley usually showcase the versatility of hydrogen by supplying ideally several sectors in their geography such as mobility, industry, and energy end users. So thus, Hydrogen Valley are an ecosystem or a cluster where various final applications share a common hydrogen supply infrastructure. So therefore, creating a synergy and more economic step for the participant. And finally, a project feasibility. Project have to be under a real development and at least working on a feasibility study. So here the upstream refers to an annual green hydrogen production of 8.5 million metric ton, and the main type of water electrolysis technology used here is PEM and alkaline. And the midstream here is the transportation and storage of hydrogen. And storage method mainly compressed gas, hydrogen, cylinders, caverns, and others, and transportation via a pipeline, truck, and ship. And the downstream pay attention to industrial off-takers, especially mobility end users and energy end users. So the
Excuse me, Dr. Ranjit, could I kindly ask you to come to a close as we still have 3 other speakers? Thank you.
Yeah. I'm just skipping this slide. Just I will talk about the upcoming valleys in India. So these are the recommended Hydrogen Valley Innovation Cluster, which is coming up. So most probably this will be announced by the 28th of March this month. So we have 4 valleys coming up in India. One is at IIT Jodhpur campus. It is in Jodhpur. Then we have Pune Hydrogen Valley, which is coming under Pune Mumbai region. Then we have Bhubaneswar Hydrogen Valley, which will be coming up the Bhubaneswar. And finally, we have an Anert HVIC, which is coming in Kochi, Alappuzha, and Trivandrum region. And here I summarize these details of recommended Hydrogen Valley Innovation Cluster, their production route, production capacity, storage and distribution, and finally distribution. By this, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Ranjit. Very helpful. Great to have this excellent overview of the different sectors of hydrogen. It's also very interesting to see the different areas where you're promoting research into materials, other parts of hydrogen. Perhaps before we pass on to the next speakers, a question from my side would be, you've selected these 4 clusters. I'm sure you had many other applications. On which grounds did you select them? What made them stand out for you in terms of making the most, let's say, worthy of receiving support from the state?
Okay, so the Department of Science and Technology, which we have a National Expert Advisory Committee to evaluate and approve funding for hydrogen cluster project. So actually, it employs a 2-level of screening process. First is expression of interest, and second is the detailed project report evaluation. So applicant who meet all the call criteria and proposal guidelines are shortlisted from the EOI. Then the shortlisted applicant will submit the detailed project report, which are evaluated based on merit and overall preparedness, then resource mobilization capability, then strategic partnership, proposed implementation model, then off-takers commitment, post-funding sustainability. So based on this evaluation, DST along with the National Expert Advisory Committee recommended the selected Hydrogen Valley Innovation Cluster for financial support.
Just a last question, how many applications actually did you receive? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, we have received more than 300 applications during the expression of interest
Wow.
EOI. Yeah. Out of that, we have selected finally 4.
Okay, so that makes it, so thank you for that, because it makes it so much more important that we can highlight that actually we are showcasing today out of the 300 applications submitted, we're actually showcasing 2 out of those very 4 that made it through the very narrow, very tight selection. So it's very great to see actually that they really were scored well on partnership and merit and many other criteria. With this, therefore, let me pass on then to the next speaker, which is also a great colleague and a friend, Madam, Mr. Rendra Velluri from Anert in Kerala. So he's the CEO of Anert, which is the Agency for New Energy and Renewable Technologies. I hope I got it correct. If not, please correct me if I'm wrong. A fun fact, as I was digging up on your history again, which might people not be aware of. I mean, you've been with ISI now since 2011, but actually before going into hydrogen and renewable energies, now as Anert, you were actually in the wildlife services and becoming an expert at conflict management, at animal-human conflict management. So I'm sure that you've now taken all these skills, which is your calm way of doing things. I've now had to ensure that also human conflict management is probably easier. So with that, over to you.
Thanks, Rolf, and thanks, Nish. So it is always great to be on this forum. So especially with so many participants. So we would like to present what actually we are doing. So part of it is already dealt by Ranjit. So during his Dr. Ranjit during his presentation. So I'll just take you through what actually we are doing in Kerala, and so then specifically into what is this hydrogen valley that we are talking about. So Kerala, we have set some tight targets for ourselves. So we wanted to be a carbon neutral state by 2050, which is 2 decades ahead of rest of India. And since we have set ourselves tough target, we believe that renewable energy and green hydrogen are going to play a greater role in becoming a carbon neutral economy. So all our actions, so even before DST or MNRE or Government of India has started believing something on hydrogen, so Kerala has started the activity. In fact, when Mr. Rolf was there in GIZ, so we started a dialogue with him, and so we are actually kind of bottoms up. Like we have realized the potential of a hydrogen hub even before the hub was coined in under the NGHM term. And Mr. Rolf, when he was in GIZ, helped us in working out the Kochi Green Hydrogen Hub, the entire document, so with the industry available. So why Kochi again? So it is being centrally located. It has strategic domestic consumption. There is a refinery at Kochi that is BPCL. There is a fertilizer consumption to consume green ammonia with like FACT. Then there is a very progressive airport, which is the first solar airport in the world, and which is always forthcoming if you wanted to do some projects, including SAF or to run some feeder buses. Then we have, most importantly, the Kochi port, through which if exporters are coming, so we can export green hydrogen or ammonia. So we had that inherent advantage of having a domestic industry for local consumption as well as facilitating for export. So that's why we approached GIZ, and they helped us with in identifying this green hydrogen hub for Kochi. But the report has actually led the way for us, paved the way for us how to go forward. So the report has mentioned that since the industry, because they had extensive tours, the extensive interviews with all the consumers, and then they found out that so the industry as such is nascent, and we have to convince the industry with some tangible projects on ground, and only then they'll be on board. So that is exactly right, almost the right time when DST has called for applications for this hydrogen valley. And then we thought it is right time, so we need to pull up all these things together. So we have formed different work plans, and have seen that how can we involve this industry that is there in Kochi to be a part of the as a consortium partner and put up the proposal for DST. So that is how we have put up different work plans. First is on the use case of transport, because Kerala as such, after energy, transport is the major polluter. So of course, energy we are directly not contributing, 80% is imported. So that is, if we take it on our account only, energy is the major polluter, otherwise it is the transport. So this transport is both the road transport as well as water transport. And before that, so while we started envisaging for pilots itself, the government as such, during the discussions, we have finalized that. So if we are going to do pilots, so it means that we'll be covering the entire spectrum of activities on hydrogen. So we'll not leave any sector. We have to test all the technologies, whether it is PEM electrolyzer, alkaline, whatever electrolyzer that is there, the different kinds of fuel cells. So everything that Kerala has to be a laboratory. So that is how we have devised our work plans also on how to go about in the pilot phase itself. So that is where in the work plans we have gone for this hydrogen ICE buses, fuel cell based buses, then the cargo boats with the fuel cell, again with ICE, then the containerized battery as well as hydrogen fuel cell and vessel, then biomass based hydrogen production, and then there is one chloralkali plant that is available in Kochi, which produces 99.2% pure hydrogen, which can be readily used for ICE buses. But so then we thought, so how can we purify? What will be the cost of hydrogen if we purify that the hydrogen which is coming as a byproduct? So like this, we have planned different work plans, and once we have applied for that, so there was a few rounds of scrutiny and all. Then at the same time, I think almost 6 months later, ARAI has also come up under NGHM with the proposal for pilots for transportation again. So since we are doing all kinds of transportation under DST, we thought why not try out the long distance transport with trucks, since the mass transport is covered here. So long distance transport, again ARAI we got selected. So we are one of the 5 people who are awarded. So we have proposed their hydrogen ICE based trucks and hydrogen ICE based hydrogen fuel cell based trucks. So to run at two different locations. And so all these, if you see the consortium partners, we have tied up with BPCL, which is the refinery there. We have tied up with PACT. So we have tied up with Cochin Shipyard, then Cochin KMRL, CIAL, so the KSRTC which runs the transport, and even the trucks also we tied up with KSRTC because they need trucks for transportation of spares for the buses between the bus stations. So all this, so we have tied up with the, so we have told them, so you just be the partner to observe. So what will be the cost of hydrogen, so that at the end of this pilot phase, so we need to scale it up to the next level. And if you, unless and until you are a partner in this project, so you will not understand. So what is the dynamics of the costing of hydrogen? So that is how we are progressing with the pilots now. For the ARAI also, again, Ashok Leyland is the OEM for us, and BPCL is the partner who will be setting up the electrolyzer as well as the hydrogen refueling station. So this is how we are progressing, and the idea is, while all these pilots get grounded, so we have to realize the opportunity, as again Dr. Ranjit has pointed out, we have to realize the opportunity for the R&D scope and skilling of the workforce, because once this evolves by 2030 into the commercial scale as envisaged by DST or as under the NGHM is being envisaged, so we require huge manpower to be skilled. So simultaneously, so that and R&D projects. So here R&D again, we have received so many projects, but we have told the academia that so R&D will be limited only to the projects that are on ground, so that the industry will also benefit. So that is how we are taking R&D. So academic institutions, private players, all together, and the government is holding all the threads together. So that is how we are planning our valleys. So the valley mainly concentrated in Kochi, but since the Vizhinjam port has also become operationalized, and there are few private players like Renew Power and all who particularly want area and at Trivandrum close to Vizhinjam port for their operations. So we are considering the valley, extending the valley from Kochi to Trivandrum also. So entire Kerala is considered as one hydrogen valley. So this is it from our side. I'll be happy to take any questions as we go forward.
Yeah, wonderful. No, for those who don't know, the Kerala approach is very much integrated really into the Kochi, into the Kochi harbor, also with the waterways and the trucks and the refueling station serving all the different parties in the pilot phase. So it's it's great to see also how the Kochi shipyard actually has got involved also in them. So it's a nice effort really of collectively in the entire industry. I'm waiting to see if anybody has questions. If not, I'll ask you one before we go in, and then we'll ask how many more questions at the end. Just out of curiosity, what was the biggest challenge that you personally had in actually developing this cluster approach?
The biggest challenge as such is convincing the partners. So because see, it is not like we share a common vision, and everybody works in silo, especially at government level. But at the same time, what we realized is that only government can do such thing, because so bringing in all these partners. So the first question that they'll ask is, so we don't have money to put in for the buses. So we have to convince them. So don't worry about the money. So we'll apply for the projects. So get the money, and even the diesel minus hydrogen cost also I am going to pay you. So that is how we convinced them, and luckily we had our additional chief secretary, Mr. Jyotilal sir. So he is a passionate man about hydrogen. So whatever issue that we take it to him, so it is resolved immediately. So that way we could convince them. The biggest challenge, even till date, we are having challenges with KMRL also to convince. So how do we run these buses? Who will pay the initial cost for this bus? So all such things, but somehow we are overcoming. So if you take out money out of the issue, as out of the context as an issue, then everybody will fall in line. So it is the money that is making everybody to work in silos. So that is what we realized.
Okay, so good to know. So that's how you're putting it off, and it's good to hear actually of the challenges of the bringing in the different people along the line together along the entire value chain, and really pulling it off. I'm now checking. So before we go, the next speaker, I think he's hopefully there. I think we would be.
Yes, Professor Saroj is ready.
Yeah, Professor Saroj, very good, very good. Okay, good to see you. Very good.
Yeah.
Then, thank you, Narendra. Then over to you, Professor Saroj. So just a fun fact of you to make it interesting. So people know you're a professor at the IIT in Bhubaneswar. We're very happy to see you. Two fun facts, actually. So if you go to your LinkedIn profile, you have a picture which you may want to consider updating.
Of course. Right.
But otherwise, I was very fascinated to read. I have to read that out. That your, at least on the university, you read your research interests are molecular dynamics, simulations, nanostructures, and quantum transport. So obviously you have a very, let's say, very physics approach to all of the hydrogen business, and they're looking at again, it's the quantum that gets to them almost very, very, very high thinking. So great to see there's some of these interests now getting to hydrogen.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so as you said, is the smallest element. So but it's one of the I would say opportunity and a challenge element, because some of us kind of on a lighter note, we say that hydrogen has a future, and it has always a future. But I think, can you hear me all and see my slides?
We see you and see the slides, and we hear you well. All good.
All good. Thank you. So thanks so much for this opportunities. And as I was already this stage is said by the previous two speakers, what we'll be talking about basically the Odisha Hydrogen Valley at Bhubaneswar. So the title is a question mark, and I hope that by end of the talk I'll be doing a justice to the title. So this is a slide that you have seen again and again. My point is not to recapture anything other than saying that the CO2 concentration that you see in the atmosphere, unfortunately, about 8% in globally coming from the iron industry. And if you look at India, because some of our industry may not be the most efficient currently we have, and so that number goes to somewhere between 10 to 12%. And it turns out also, as some of you know, that India is the second largest producer of steel. And the state I am from is the largest producer of steel in India, so which means we are the second largest producer of steel in the world. But it comes to the price that right now, the technology that we're using, we're taking iron ore, we're using coke, carbon, we're getting iron, but we are also giving CO to the atmosphere.
So what we are proposing here is that we, instead of carbon, of course, you use green hydrogen, and then you get the iron, and then you get water. And so the problem is solved. Obviously, it's easier said than done. And that's where our valley is going to look at. And we believe that we have the experts, and I think there is an opportunity to make it happen. So some of you may know that Odisha 20 years ago was struggling for paying even the salary every month. Now is one of the few states which has a surplus budget. And 50%, what I understand, is coming from mining and related industry, the revenue that we are talking about. So what we're trying to tell here that, this is telling us that as the energy or the industry makes a transition, we don't want to be Detroit of tomorrow. So we don't want to miss the bus where you are not competitive in terms of the technology, not in terms of the using what's going to be the future. And of course, there are two competing technology right now coming in terms of the making the steel. One is, of course, the vertical one. Typically, if you look at the hydrogen, then that's preferred with the currently, for example, the natural gas. And India doesn't have natural gas that we can really use it. So we are left with either coal, which we are using right now, or hydrogen, green hydrogen, right? I mean, again, as I was introduced as a quantum physics or chemistry, or it doesn't matter, but this is the reaction that we're looking at, and the trivial reaction is that we're just trying to replace carbon with the hydrogen and making water instead of the CO2. But there are details buried in the kinetics and so on. There are experts here, ranging from chemical engineers to physicists. So we have, in fact, a team ranging along that line. So what's the challenge? Well, some of the challenge, and in fact, we have been fortunate that we are partnering with Medsol, and the founder of Medsol is the founding CEO of the much celebrated green hydrogen or green steel company in Sweden, Dr. Martin Görner. And we know each other for last more than long time, more than 10 years. We've been working this in the lab scale here, and obviously the Valley provided an opportunity to go to the next level. So, hybrid has demonstrated already in the pilot plant, but keep in mind that the hybrid used the iron ore of Sweden, which is much higher iron content compared to typical iron ore that we find in India or Odisha. So, typically we get 55% of iron content, where if you look at Sweden, it's about 75%. So the ore quality is definitely a big player. But if you look at, again, I don't want to go to details, but I'll just give you this is a busy slide. So I'll like you to take home message is that the energy cost is where, or the hydrogen cost is where it's going to play around. And if you solve that one, I think you have a market there. So there are challenges, but we also, as India, we have seen, and again, we have known that we have really accelerated the renewable energy, for example, over the last 10 years or so, right? So we are really, if you look at the rooftop, if you look at the utility scale, you look at any of those, particularly solar, is turns out with the cheapest in the world that you get in India. You also have engineering, for example. I mean, again, that is something that we know that, we can send the ship to the space less than the budget of the, making a Hollywood movie. Obviously, the challenge of that we can do at that scale here is still open, and that's the work in progress, right? And that's where the Hydrogen Valley came into the picture, as Dr. Pai told that, we've been selected and hoping to, launch the program sometime this month, so that we can go from the lab scale to a pilot scale. And for that, you should know that is you need team, and we have put together team, not only just academy, but also industry, and industry which matters. and also from the international collaborator, as I said. So again, this is a kind of a thumb, an envelope type of calculations. What we find that if you do currently, for example, if you look at the hydrogen price, some people say about $5. Let's say take out around that ballpark. If you look at the CBAM cost that's coming up pretty soon, and if you have a choice whether you pay the tax at the in the border or in the Europe, or you make green hydrogen with the current in India, you actually are better off in the latter. Meaning that even with the price that you have now, you can be still cheap for making green steel that for the export. Obviously, that's a niche market. And as we have seen in any new technology, including mobile phones, or even solar, initially it comes to the niche market and then it becomes a mass production. And that's what we're hoping. And the other part, obviously, we are looking at also mining sectors. There we're working with Dalmia and other mining industry, where some of the challenges that you see in the transportation sector that we just heard about may be piloted a little easier because of the refueling and all this, because these are all fixed routes. The safety and others are a little minimized. And we have the partner with the Mining Corporation, which is again largest PSU in the mining PSU in India. They have agreed to subsidize the extra cost because they want to go to green. So that's another sector that we are doing. So in summary, I think the challenges, engineering challenge should be solved. Obviously, the iron feedstock is something that is going to be play about the cost, but the green electrical energy, which is already lowest in India, is something which is going to be attractive for our market. And so we, with that, I thank you for attention. We'll be happy to take any questions.
Wonderful, Suraj. Thank you very much. So I appreciate also the introduction again, reminding people again on the necessity to have a high iron ore content that often gets forgotten. So I remember it as being like minimum 67%. Makes exactly okay. But it's good to remind us actually, and I still love the graph which shows actually how much higher the CO2 content is today and how quickly it rose in terms of time. Yeah. So it's very, very cool. While I'm waiting for people to audience, please feel free, participate, ask questions in the chat. While I'm waiting for things to appear, a question to you, the same question. What was the biggest challenge that you had, or that in putting the concept together, which eventually was awarded then by the DST?
So I can tell you the first answer to the question. The second answer probably Dr. Pai can answer you. So the first answer is that we wanted to find something challenging but commercially viable. And so when we look at the green hydrogen an opportunity, but we wanted to find, as Dr. Pai said, that you have to not only just produce, not only just store, you have to utilize, and then you have to find the industry partners. So there are not many industry right now which will be commercially attractive, at least in the next 5 years or so. And there are many, they may able to do it, as I said earlier, as though it becomes a mass consumption and the price comes down, then you'll find many others to join, as it happens in solar, right? I mean, I remember about 20 years ago, the solar was only installed in the temple or government buildings because it was not affordable. And guess what now? It's now the individual customer, like mobile phone, they're using solar rooftop on their houses. So the challenge was for us to find something that's going to be commercially viable, but it makes challenging so that there is enough work in terms of the R&D to be done, not R&D in the lab, but in the pilot scale. So that is where and also it has to be, see, for example, as I said, Odisha is the largest producer of steel in India. The next one is the Jharkhand border. The next one is the Chhattisgarh. So all these things have to be taken into account so that we can really link to the industry, because you can do, and as you said, we are in IIT, we can sit here, we can tell all those things, but who's going to be taker? So I think the brainstorming, the talking to industry. In fact, we have spent months and months and months in the industry going to where they have this rotary clean, looking at how it works, looking at the capacity that, I mean, if a big industry like Tata and others, different scale, but you have this small and medium scale, they are the largest again in India. If you look at the rotary kiln, they're the largest in India. So if you want to make a transition, you want to make sure that their band that they can invest should be compatible to the technology that you are proposing. So I don't know if this makes sense to you what you are asking, but that's what we had the challenge that then we zoom in to this technical things. Yeah.
I agree fully with you. Finding a commercial challenge, that's the key thing, is finding some challenge. We have a question which Ujjwal Bhatt is asking, should we export green molecules or green steel?
Right. So I would say both. I would not choose one. See, if you have ammonia, go for it. But if you have something like a green steel demand, because there is no production happening, it's very expensive in Europe, you can make it and do it. Do both. Why to restrict to one versus other?
Well, yeah, that's one way of looking at it. I mean, I would probably, for me, it's always the technical issues of transporting hydrogen is for me always one of the challenges. Okay. We have another question. Hydrogen, is hydrogen used as a reducing agent in mining? Like when you come to fuel cells, you have very high purity specifications. But is it used in mining for or
hydrogen? So here, obviously, hydrogen is used in a reducing agent for the iron oxide, and we have a little more leverage of the impurity compared to the fuel cell. So for sure, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I wasn't aware. Okay. Last question. DRI revived. So too many abbreviations I haven't heard of. DRI derived HBI billets as much as possible for the best CO2 reduction case.
So again, I understand the question where they're coming from. Right now, we don't have any pilot to show the Indian ore. So initially we are going DRI, but your audience is correct that HDRI might be better to use for long transportations and things like that. So, but right now we're just focusing. The DRI is basically direct reducing iron, direct reduction of iron, DRI. So yeah. So I think right now our focus again, as I said earlier, that we wanted to demonstrate first so that there is something that we know that works and it can be scaled up, and that there can be a trust between the industry and what we are showing, and all other options are open for sure. But for initially, we are going for DRI.
Okay. Good. No, fair enough. I mean, it's you convinced also DST the approach, and it sounds very practical. So congrats.
Yeah. Sure.
With that, if you could stay on the call, let me pass on to the next speaker. So that we'll have like a final panel at the end. We can compare those. Thanks so much. The next speaker is Rahul Patel from NTPC. Rahul Patabala. Excuse me for the. No, I hope you know the right. Also a good friend. Also, can use the opportunity now to actually. I was researching that you've now been promoted to deputy General Manager for Hydrogen at PTC, so congrats on that. So it was there. We've done some great projects together. But today, as I'm told, you'll be telling us all about a project which is fantastically large and new. So I think we'll all be curious to hear more from you on this one. Over to you.
Thank you, Rolf, and it has always been nice working with you. We have done many great things along. And it's my privilege to be part of this webinar, and thank you for inviting me. Let me just share what you're doing with this Hydrogen Hub project, and then we can have subsequent discussions. So NTPC has been a pioneer in terms of green hydrogen production and end use, and you would be aware that we have done many firsts, be it the first green hydrogen fueling station at an altitude of 11,000 feet, or the first green hydrogen blending with a maximum of 8% blending that is happening. And we are also doing a very high altitude microgrid project for Indian Army. And we are the first to do a green methanol based pilot of capacity 10 tons per day
from green hydrogen, and that we are doing at Vindhyachal MP. So we have many firsts. Now we took this group was formed. In fact, those hydrogen initiatives were started 3 to 4 years back in NTPC, and I am proud to be one of the founding members of that. Now, after taking few baby steps and then getting hold of the technology, now we are up to an ambitious plan, which is the Green Hydrogen Hub. It is the largest, by far the largest in India and the world. Now, it's sort of a dream, and this dream is well endorsed by MNRE, and this the foundation stone of the project has been laid by the Honorable Prime Minister on 8th of January this year. So I'll take you through the project. We'll see through the overall overview of the project and then what the potential is, then what we are doing in terms of green chemical production and export, and common infra that we're envisaging, and what is the entire master plan of the entire hub. So this project is located at a strategic location in the eastern coast of India, where we have the Eastern Naval Command. So it's a strategic location in terms of maritime factors, if you see. So we have 1,200 acres of land, which is very near to the seashore, around 2 kilometers from the seashore. And this land we want to convert into a hydrogen hub, primarily for the export market and also applying to domestic end use customers. Now you can imagine this hub to be of a size where you would be finding around 7 gigawatt of electrolyzer capacity at one place. And to back this up, you actually need a capacity of over 20 gigawatt of renewable energy, solar, wind, and storage combined, to actually provide power to this place. So we have a plant there, a thermal plant, which is a 2 gigawatt plant, and that is huge. Now, if you imagine, this is almost three and a half times of what we are doing there. So it's a huge capacity in that terms. And we are fortunate to have 2 ports around this location. So export options are always there from these 2 ports. But we are also planning to have our own captive liquid jetty so that we can export it. We need not take it through road or rail, and we can export it from this place near to this hydrogen hub through this shore only. Now this is a project potential, if I say. So the total land that is in possession with us and where we have already started development is 1,200. 400 we are yet to acquire for storage terminal and captive jetty. And ultimate production capacity is around 2.5 million tons of green chemical. So utilizing 7.5 gigawatt of RE-RTC, we would be producing around 2.5 million tons of green chemical that comprises ammonia, methanol, SAF, and green urea. So this entails an investment of around $22 billion, where around half of it would be utilized for production of power and half would be towards production of hydrogen and its derivatives. So this hub was also endorsed by MNRE as the first hydrogen hub of the country, and this would entail a job creation of 57,000 for capacity addition as well as for operation. Now, if I break it down, the 2.5 million tons would be, say, green ammonia will be around 1.5 million tons, and then 0.5 million tons or 1,500 TPD will be green methanol, and then approximately 1,500 TPD will be green urea and SAF combined. Now we also have plans to produce liquid hydrogen and export it to different countries. As you can see, this is a physical location of the hub, and in the month of January, the foundation stone was laid. And if you want to know what the action plan is, so you all would be knowing that large-scale projects, say involving an investment of total of 2.5 billion, they take time in terms of FID and offtake agreements. So what we are doing, we have our internal resources, and we want to deploy those resources and have pilot scale plants of SAF and green urea. So 6 tons per day of SAF we want to produce through 10 tons per day of ethanol being produced from electrolyzer based hydrogen and CO2 from our bio
cryogenic source of carbon dioxide. And then we also plan to produce 150 tons per day of urea. This would require an investment of around 2,400 crore. So this is the first or zero phase of the project, if you say. This we have started. Now, coming to the first phase of the project, that is green ammonia. So there are tenders in the market, and there are clusters very near to this hub where we can actually supply a green ammonia produced here. So that around, it will be in the scale of 450 to 1,000 tons per day if we also supply to far off clusters in India. So that gives us an advantage because we have a cluster there. Now, for export market, we are doing a feasibility study with an international MNC for 1 million tons of green ammonia, and we plan to actually produce and export it to different off-takers. Now, we are also doing a green methanol. We have actually completed the feasibility and with discussion with the off-takers for production and supply of 0.5 million tons of green methanol. The green hydrogen will be produced here, whereas we also plan to bring CO2 from a 23-kilometer long pipeline from a thermal plant where we'll be co-firing biomass along with coal to make that CO2 part of biogenic origin, not through coal. And then in the last phase, we'll be doing large-scale SAF. So we start with 6 tons per day and 150 tons per day of SAF and urea respectively. But at the fag end, we'll be producing around 1,500 tons per day of both combined. So typically maybe 600 tons per day of SAF and 900 tons per day of green urea. So this is the overall plan. Now for that, what we are doing, we have to arrange the construction power, which we are doing, the construction water. And because the requirement is huge in terms of water, we also plan to source water from sea using a desalination plant. So for that also, we are going to do we have already done a pre-feasibility study. We are going to do a feasibility study. And then we also want to acquire a land because there we can have storage terminal. It can be both shared as well as captive. And that will act as a buffer storage before we ship the green chemicals from there. And you can imagine the electrical requirement of 7.5 gigawatt. So that also would come in 3 to 4 phases where we plan to have 2.5 gigawatt of GIS in different phases. And then subsequently adding up to 7.5 gigawatt. And the master planning is done by a Singapore company, and that's also at the fag end of completion. So as I said, it requires a power of 20 gigawatt. So what we are doing, we have done a joint venture with AP Renewable Energy Corporation so that we can source power and we can produce the entire power even more in the same state. And if possible, supply power through a green transmission corridor. So this is at the back end. And this you can see is a master planning at a very higher, at overview, you can say, or a preliminary one. So you can see the purple areas are for ammonia, and then you can see the Netra one as a pilot project. And methanol you can see is the red one, and the blue one you can see is the urea. So, and also we plan to have our own administrative building, staff area, everything. So in terms of completeness, it will be a truly complete green hydrogen hub with its own export capabilities. And this is the model that you can see. So we produce all the green chemicals, we store it near the shore, and then we export it through a liquid jetty. So this was all. So I'll be happy to take questions. Thank you.
Very good. Look, I'm completely amazed. I'm not quite sure how to address you anymore. If I should now readdress you now as the future mayor of Pudimaka of green hydrogen. It's amazing, really. It's amazing, really, how you're almost building an entire city around there. To ask you the same question before we get into the panel, what was the biggest challenge that you faced in pulling this off so far?
So if you see, this is a first of its kind. So for all the pilot projects, actually, we had to do everything from scratch. And here also the case is same. So in terms of getting the land, getting it registered, and then actually doing a pre-feasibility study, then actually looking how we can have a port ready. And also with respect to the supply chains, we have tied up for a gigawatt of electrolyzer capacity. That was at the back end. And in terms of, I mean, we were planning to do our pilot projects at different parts of the country. Then we wanted everything to shift here because we wanted to make this a truly green hydrogen hub. So we brought our 10 tons per day of ethanol plant from our Chhattisgarh location, which was supposed to be coming up there. So we brought it here, and then we are doing all SAF, urea, everything here, so that we start getting that economies of scope, economies of scale advantage here. And the challenge, if you see from water, because the requirement is so high, so now we are doing, I mean, gearing up with the construction water. So because the stature of the project is so high and is taken up at the level of CM and PM's office, so we get support from everywhere. But in terms of challenges, every step you have to, I mean, put in a lot of effort, and then the ultimate challenge is the off-taker. So wherever we could, we are pulling our own resources so that this project kicks up, and we are at a good stage of discussion with off-takers. And the complete, I mean, people are looking for export through ports. Now we are thinking of having our own captive port. So if you see everything, it's a very challenging task, but definitely I think we'll be faring in this.
No, really, kudos. I mean, it's amazing, and just for others who are new to hydrogen. So, what for me is like one big takeaway: how you're pulling things at the different locations together, all into one location, just reduce logistics, reduce transport costs, and really to make the economics work, and makes it easier. I mean, it's of course more difficult. This is the first time I've heard anybody thinking about construction water, which often gets forgotten because construction needs a lot of water for the cement. So mostly people think only of the water for hydrogen production, but you're even thinking of construction water, which is like amazing. Great detail. So I think I've got a number of questions. How do you manage to target to meet the hourly matching requirement by the EU for either green hydrogen or green ammonia or green methanol? And the hourly matching is what's making everybody nervous.
Yeah, so actually, if you see NTPC, at NTPC, we were never thinking of banking because we knew from the start that banking at CTU level is near to impossible. So we never thought of that. Even our first pilot, first pilot that we started was at Leh, is totally green. I mean, you generate power here, and through energy management system, you consume it there. So the plant was designed in such a way that you generate power and simultaneously you consume, except for the auxiliary power that you require during the night. For that also, we build their fuel cell and battery systems. So our idea was always to do hourly matching. Now here, as I showed, that we are planning to have, say, 30 plus gigawatt of capacity in the state of Andhra Pradesh itself. And we have done a joint venture with the state Renewable Energy Corporation, that is NRED CAP, and a joint venture is formed. And Mr. D.M. Panda is the CEO of the company. So that resource, I mean, that land bank will be using, state land bank will be using and producing power, and that will be transported to this. So the complete, say, 20 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity, solar, wind combined, will be, we are targeting to have a utilization factor of, say, 60-70%. And our plant will be running at 60-70% of capacity, and so that we don't require any sort of banking or large scale storage to do this.
Wow, so that's, I mean, that's I can only agree with you. It makes sense really just to be self-sufficient, not to think of banking, go straight for hourly from the beginning. That way you don't change. It's really designed, set up, and you reduce costs in the end. I think the other part is really to have really all your backup system, batteries in place, and fuel cells is amazing. So it's wow. I'll be very curious to see how this comes off. The question was here. Somebody was asking, well, 20 gigawatt of electrolyzers. Where are you going to get all the electrolyzers from? Is this going to be India or is this going to be imported?
So it's not 20. So if you see it, keenly, it will
Okay.
be 7 gigawatt of electrolyzer, and total power requirement will be 7.5. So that is the capacity, because we are having 20 gigawatt of power, but we want to run the electrolyzer at a higher PLF. So it will be around 7.5 gigawatt. So we have already tied up with for 1 gigawatt of electrolyzer. So if you see in India also, PLI has been awarded to, say, a capacity of 3 gigawatt for domestic manufacturing, and that is per year. And this project that we are having at hand is spanning a duration of 7 to 8 years. So in that, if you see, it will be more than 25 gigawatt capacity should be available, at least on paper. So there's no dearth of electrolyzer capacity, I
Okay.
think.
Okay.
And if market is there, because they are not utilizing their factories to the fullest extent. So if market is there, production will happen.
Okay, cool. Yeah, apologies, you're right. Of course, it's only 7 gigawatt of electrolyzers. There's 20 gigawatts of renewables. Well, that's true. But the importantly for me was cool. What people are not aware of, you're only planning at 60 to 70% average capacity utilization and
Yes.
backup to keep the electrolyzers running more or less stably, if I get it correct.
Yeah. Yes.
So that will probably be alkaline electrolyzers. But that's important because most people think like 80, 90, 100% capacity utilization. And what you're doing is much more, let's say, the reality of what you can make in order to make it work at the same time still be commercial. So it's I can only learn from you guys. This is all very cool. Let me take one more question from the audience. Well, yes, what kind of electrolyzer technologies are you looking at? Is this going to be a mix, or is it alkaline, or how will you deal with that? That or is that perennial question of the alkalizer technology choice?
So actually, electrolyzers we have deployed both equally. So if you see, for our methanol plant, we had deployed 5 megawatt of PEM electrolyzer, and our smaller pilot we had 0.35 megawatt of PEM. And for our Leh and Delhi projects, it is around 2.5 megawatt of alkaline electrolyzers. So we are using both the technologies, and the tie-up that we have done for a gigawatt capacity, we have 400 megawatt for PEM and 600 megawatt of alkaline. So we are neutral in terms of deploying these electrolyzer capacities.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how we are doing.
Good. Let me pass the word also to Dr. Krishna Pai, who had a question to you. Ranjit, over to you.
Okay, Rahul,
Yes, sir.
a nice presentation. So I have a question. You are partnering with any of the upcoming HVIC?
Yes, sir. Actually, we are partnering with IIT Jodhpur. So,
and what is your role there? You are
so there, as of now, it's envisaged to we will be supporting them in the mobility segment. I mean, from storage, compression, dispensation to deployment of buses. So that was our scope.
So MNRE has given you some fund for upcoming these green hydrogen hubs?
No, sir, this one actually there was a scheme floated, but there's some issues cropped up, so that is held up. So there is an allotment of 100 crores for each hub. So 200 crores were the allotment, but as of now that's not granted. The RFP is held up right now. So I think there will be some corrigendum, and again it will come up.
Okay, thank you, Radha.
Thank you.
Okay, we have such a huge number of questions, really, and I'm sure we're going to run out of time if we try to close punctually within 11 minutes. God, I'm not sure where to start. I'm sure we're not going to be able to answer all of them. So the question to you is like, is there a potential of this is a very technical question, is there a potential of frequency regulation utilizing optimum load for electrolyzers? I'm not even sure I understand the question. This potential.
I couldn't get the question.
Okay, then I'm sorry. I apologize. I couldn't get it on there. Could you please elaborate on the anticipated operating strategy for the electrolyzers?
So actually, I mean, the question is to anyone or any specific?
I think it's specific to you, and then I'll ask questions then to everybody.
Okay. So strategy is simple. Now your electrolyzer technology or your electrolyzer that you are procuring, be it for any criteria, so that will have its own technical minimum, and it will have its own ramping up and ramping down capabilities. Now the RE that you're setting up or the configuration of solar wind, so you'll be having some technical minimum. So you'll be selling your surplus, planning to sell your surplus in the market, and you'll be trying to have a technical minimum every time block. And there will be some ramp up and ramp down of the profile that is the mixed profile that you get. So you have to match these two things. So for example, as of now, 30% is generally a standard technical minimum that we consider. PEM electrolyzers, though, they say that they can come up to say 10%. So 30% is the technical minimum. And then in terms of ramping up, ramping down, so PEM, it's approximately 10% a second. And for alkaline, roughly it's 10% a minute. So for our RE profile, I think both work well.
Okay.
So you have to match that. Whatever you can procure anything, but you have to match your generation and consumption.
No, that makes sense, but it looks like, I mean, along those two rules of thumb of the ramping up and ramp down are important for people to keep in mind. You're probably also combining different types of electrolyzers, so different, and you still have your battery there as a backup even to support in different kinds of operations. Very good. Before we get to technical, we're talking about hubs. That was the subject. Let me also bring back Saroj and also Narendra back on the call. A question to you. You heard how water and land are really important, and for NTPC, of course, they're working at gigawatt scale. But how land, water, and especially land in India are always tricky issues. So how do you deal with those in Bhubaneswar and then respectively Kochi?
Right. So, we also obviously thought about and got some data. But in short, the hydrogen that being used, so let's say put a number in perspective. So you need about 50 to 60 plus a 60 kg of hydrogen for 1 ton of for making 1 ton of steel. So compared to, let's say, for example, fertilizer or other industry, our consumption is less, but still, because you produce millions still. So fortunately, the water, the groundwater, is Odisha has one of the highest groundwater. So we'll not use the let's say seawater at this point. That's the plan. And in terms of the, for the land, so again, some of the studies that we have done, because if you look at all these minings also, there is a lot of land that's available. And in fact, as we speak, for example, there's already huge amount of solar and including some let's say, utility scale is happening around that. So as you pointed out earlier, the transmissions and, interstate and all those problems may be minimal, at least initially. And, as we see, I don't, or at least we don't expect the complete industry to completely transform in the next 5 years or so, or even 10 years, right? There will be some mixture of, we like it not, and we will still be using carbon, but we'll be also, making transition, and the transition is not going to be abrupt. So I think in the next 10 years or so, at least our analysis shows that the water and the land for the products that we are looking at is not going to be challenging. So that's okay. Our, and as the other part also, just I'll mention the other part also we're working in is like, see, the traditionally, your iron ore used to go where the energy is, minimal. So there's a lot of logistic and things like that, and that's why sometimes it's not very competitive. But if you look at hydrogen, it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, what we propose that this is going to be located, the hydrogen is going to be located near the mining. So you will minimize, for example, a lot of logistic cost in terms of transporting ore and then converting to iron. And then the power, for example, is going to be right there situated. Obviously, the challenge will be something, the storage, for example. And that, again, we have done some, at least in the backup envelope calculations. So that is also because of the amount of hydrogen is not that high compared to, let's say, fertilizer and other industries. It's still possible to have the local storage and still able to be competitive. So sorry,
Okay.
you had some questions.
No, that was good. I mean, you're answering again, and you went a bit further in saying that it's really logistics is a key question.
Yeah.
Therefore, by putting together, and then
Right.
you resolve your land issue by locating remotely where the mines are. That makes utter sense. Narendra, so let me go back to Kochi in Kerala. How do you deal with land and water? Because Kerala is not famous for having a lot of really available land.
Yes. Sorry, my camera is somehow not working. I am unable to click on the camera. But
No
still,
worries.
I'll answer. So we are actually a land scarce state, as everybody knows. So as my secretary often jokes, so Kerala could not give the third foot of land for Mahabali. That is how we celebrate Onam. So that land is an issue, but we are at government level, so we are bringing out change in the legislation, demarcating the plantation areas, the failed plantations and all, especially closer to the ports, to the clean energies for establishing anything related to clean energies, so that carbon that is being cleared, so we can offset through this clean energy solutions here. So that is one way that we are trying. Regarding water, we have surplus water. We have 44 rivers, so around 3,000 TMC of water. We only use 300 TMC. Rest goes to Arabian Sea. But still, we are working with a few pilots. Again, we have submitted to MNRE. So on converting the treated water coming from the waste treatment plant, at Muttatara here in Trivandrum. So whether we can purify it and then use it for the electrolysis purpose. So that is one pilot we are awaiting to do, so that we can reduce the usage of the fresh water. So otherwise, fresh water is not such a problem in Kerala. We have ample source of fresh water.
And to add on, I mean, Kerala has also been very innovative, and that is also really very much promoting floating solar.
Yes.
And that is, of course, a different way just to extend the area available and actually avoid also the competition issues with agriculture. So it's just a cool way to see how really you can make the most of whatever resource you have, and that renewable energy is very flexible.
Mostly for the transport projects, we are trying to use it in a decentralized way. So even for solar, what we are doing now is, since we don't have large tracts of land, we're doing only the decentralized solar projects like the rooftop and all. So for the transport and all along the West Coast Canal, so for 300 kilometers, we have identified small land parcels, 30 acres, 20 acres land parcels, where we can establish in between Trivandrum to Kasaragod, so that where we can do this decentralized refueling stations if needed. And the bigger land parcels will be for the export-oriented units.
Okay, cool. Yes, that's also an interesting way to go about it. So fantastic way how to use whatever resource you have. We're getting to an end. Let me, Dr. Ranjit, you had another question, so let me pass the word to you.
Yeah, so actually Anert has pointed out one good thing is that dual land use models. For example, the promoting agrivoltaic and co-locating renewable energy project with agricultural activities, so that to maximize land utilization without compromising food production. So for the water efficiency technology, so advancing electrode technology that require a minimal fresh water, which include the use of sea desalination and wastewater treatment to produce green hydrogen sustainability. So government are also introducing guidelines that promote sustainable land and water use practices, which ensuring long-term environmental sustainability while accelerating the transition to green hydrogen.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Thank you. Yeah. That's fantastic news to hear. that the government is working on regulations for land and water, and that will help it make it easier both for hydrogen developers, but also for the population to accept them such projects coming in. I'm German, so being German, I'm very time conscious and punctual. I see we reached the end, it's now 5:30 India time. We have tons of questions, so we could probably go on forever, but I would just prefer to be grateful to our speakers for providing their time for us today. And I would like to pass the word on to our director, Nishant Balachandran, for closing words.
Thanks, Rolf. That was wonderfully done. And I think this was truly scintillating, understanding what each of these different clusters are doing. And I think NTPC was a beast on its own. And Rahul, thank you for taking the time out and sharing all of these insights. And I think a lot of these conversations that are, prevalent in the industry today, which is, when it comes to large projects, everyone's talking about offtakes. Where do we get the financing? What do we do here? But looks like you've thrown all of these issues out of the window and, gone ahead and moved forward with this project. And I think that itself is a big showcase of what India can do in the space. So thank you very much for that. And, we're definitely going to reach back to you and see how we can extract lessons from your efforts, share it with the rest of the industry, and truly catalyze this industry. And some of our participants here, thank you so much for staying along the entire 2 hours. I can still see 84 of you all here with us. And finally, all of our recordings are on our YouTube page. For those of you who don't know about it, you can see all our recordings of webinars we did since last year. On our YouTube page, just look for Green Hydrogen India or GH2 India. You'll find them. Finally, on the 4th of April, we have something called the Green Hydrogen India Symposium. For those of you who joined us in February, you will know what that is all about. It's a very focused group of sector experts. We bring together, we don't explain to you what green hydrogen is. We try and look at challenges and issues that green hydrogen developers are facing. And this time on the 4th of April, we are collaborating with SECI. And one of the standout features of this next symposium is that we are having a town hall on domestic offtakes. And that goal is to see how industry can work together with SECI and the consumers, and enable more robust public procurement tenders for green ammonia in India. So in addition to that, we're looking at green ammonia and methanol in shipping, and we're bringing together the ecosystem from the shipping industry together. And we'll have Argus from Singapore come and present about global green ammonia projects, where they're taking off, how they're taking off. So I know there's a little bit of an advertisement for our event, but you are all interested in the space, and we'd love for you to be there. It's at the Oberoi Hotel on the 4th of April in New Delhi. So I'm just sharing the link to the event here. We have a very interesting set of speakers. Some of them are flying down from out of the country for this. And we have a lot of other representatives from within the sector that you will know. So I've just shared that link there. And if you don't follow us on LinkedIn, please do. And once again, thanks to all our participants who've patiently listened to us, our panelists, experts who've taken the time out to share all of this knowledge with all of y'all. And my dear friend Rolf, thank you once again. You've been a great pillar of support for the activities we've done over the last 2 years. So thank you once again. So with that, gentlemen, good evening and enjoy your evening. Bye.